Hi and welcome to another video. This is part 2 of my reflux column upgrade, where we're going to try and find out how good this little pot still attachment to my copper dome is. So we're going to get into that shortly, and it's going to be a pretty long day. But I was hoping to actually get this video out a little bit earlier, but last week ended up being a little bit hectic on the weekends. I've got a very big day ahead of me. This is going to be, well, let's look at this realistically. I've got 65 litres of wash to actually process in this 25 litre container. So I've got three distills I have to do. I'm going to do 3 rip runs. And after I've done that, I'm going to do a final distill to cut off the heads, the 4-shots heads and the tails. So it's probably going to be quite a while, but I'm going to get into it. I'll give you a report on how this pot still attachment goes at the end. But hang on, before I do that, I had a couple of questions from people in the last video on how we actually got the water into this and how it actually works. So I've actually brought this out to show you. I raided my wife's washing machine. I got this thing here, and I've got 2 hoses, 2 garden attachments here. All right, I'm going to set this up as if we're going to be going. So all I'm going to do now is lift that in place, click it down, lift that in place, click it down. That's now in place, ready to receive the water. Now the water comes from the single tap in my laundry. Water comes in, I regulate it, and water comes out here. That's the way the little condenser coil in here cools the steam to give us our runoff. So that's going to be the interesting comparison. I'm going to be drawing my conclusions at the end of this runs, and I'll give you a report. Obviously, I'm not going to record running this in the laundry. For starters, it's not very photogenic, and it's not very much space there. But I will give you a very full report when we've finished that. Well, I'm back. As you can see, change of clothes, it's the next day. Took a while to get that first lot of runs finished, but I'll give you the specs on what happened. Like yesterday, it was pretty long. It was about 1.5 hours per distill. Now remember, I had 3 that I had to do. Of course, when you add another half an hour to an hour between those washes for cooling, emptying and getting set up and all sorts of stuff, it ended up being an all-day event, which is all right. Basically, I had it on a stripping run, and it was great. I didn't have to stand there all the time. I set my voltage correct, and it was pretty effective. Just popped in every half an hour or so, and it was great. I was going to give you a little bit of an outline on what happened. The stripping run worked out pretty good. Keep in mind, it's actually a pot still attachment, and it gave me 65% ABV, which is 130 proof. Quite happy with that, because there is still a distinct odour of the brown sugar, sorry, the raw sugar that I used. I'm very interested to see how that goes. But at the end of the day, it was 2.75 litres on the stripping run. Now, it would have been a little bit more, but I was preempting a lot of my displeasure with the heads and 4-shots, and I actually threw those away beforehand, and I basically saved hearts and tails. So that was great enough. Like, I basically wanted to do that controlling right up in the front, and I wish I did. So hearts and tails is what I saved, and it was 2.75 litres, which is quite good. Now, I started early in the morning, finished late at night, and I did the final run today. Now keep in mind, with all of the stripping run, I basically have just finished doing that final run, and I'll give you my observations on that. The stripping run was extremely fast. Would I use that pot still attachment again for a stripping run? Yes, it was extremely fast. It was easy to regulate. Now keep in mind, I was regulating the temperature by voltage, not by the temperature with the water flow. I was regulating it by voltage. The first observation I had was that the water flow only needed to have a very slow flow, and it was still reasonably cool. So I regulated it until if it was warm, I just turned up the water flow a little bit, and it was still a small water flow. So if you are in a situation where you don't have a huge amount of water to actually use on a cooling, this is probably very appropriate. Now, it was regulated, as I said, it was regulated by varying the temperature. Now, my voltage controller, which is great, we have 240 volts here in Queensland, 240 volts AC. Now, I dropped it down to around about 70, 80 volts, and I was getting quite a good run of about 85 degrees Celsius. That's quite good. And I kept that 85 degrees Celsius temperature going because I had a really good flow of distillate coming out of the end pipe, which is great. Now, I've done the final run. Now, I'm going to give you a comparison now. The final run was quite interesting. It took a long time. Now, I kept the temperature controlled by the voltage. I kept the temperature at 78 degrees Celsius. So, or just around about 78, 79, 80 degrees. Occasionally it popped up a little bit higher, but I usually brought it back down to 78 degrees. One thing I noticed is that the voltage regulator started to get rather warm, which is understandable. It can do that. But one of the things is that if it was going to be an issue, I'd probably put an external fan on it, and that's something I might do later on. But that was all good. Now, the run itself was quite effective, even though it was slow. It was more like drip, 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 drip. And you can imagine my dilemma looking forward to an end product, and it was going that slow. At the end of the day, I actually spent a great deal of time on it, and I got 2.25 litres of final cut after I'd taken off the tails. So that's not too bad, considering I started off with 2.75, so it's 500 mils of that product was actually, the tails was actually discarded, which is all good. Happy with the results. It's got an odour. I'm looking forward to carbon filtering it and then just seeing how we can work on further with that. But problems. I noticed with the temperature control, like there's a huge amount of control being put on the temperature via the voltage. I noticed that there was a lot of variation to the voltage. Like I did my distill in the laundry, turn the washing machine on, the voltage drops. So all of a sudden the temperature drops. So it's not now distilling. So there is a large amount of variation of voltage. If somebody turns on power in the house somewhere, it can actually adversely affect the temperature. But apart from all that, I got used to that and got over that. And the results were quite good. Another issue I had was it does draw a fair bit of power. Now I had a substandard extension cord plugged into this power adapter and into the power point, and I noticed that it discolored the power point. But I did solve that by getting a heavy duty extension cord and plugging it in. So at the end of the day, would I use it again? Yes, I think it's extremely effective. I look forward to doing some comparisons in the future where I might do some runs using 3 different distillation methods. I might use this Potstill method here, and I might use a reflux column minus the saddles to make it into a Potstill, and I'll use a reflux column with no variable voltage control and just water control on that one, and I'll use my little pressure cooker Potstill too. But at the end of the day, it was a lot of fun, and it was a really enjoyable experience. I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops as time goes by. But if I can find something a bit more effective to stick into my bathroom or into my laundry, I will. But at the moment, I've now got 3 methods of distillation. I'm looking up. All right, thanks for actually taking the time to watch this video. I enjoy what I do. If you enjoy what I've done, please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm looking forward to actually putting a whole variety of different videos together in the future on a reasonably regular basis. So look forward to seeing you next time.